City boys, we up. We can't get enough. Tier List Tuesday is. What's up? What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is Tier List Tuesday. Overall, it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! Of course, I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Today for Tier List Tuesday, we're going to be talking about something really special, my friend. Right now, rogue decks blur the lines between being extremely powerful and just rogue. Basically, what I'm saying is that it is a really good time for rogue decks, and that's why we're doing a tier list to be able to distinguish the two between the top rogue decks. All the way down to, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Yeah, I don't think these are gonna be it, boss. In this particular tier list, big dog, I got 5 different categories here. Top rogue are the decks that are set up to be some of the most powerful decks coming into this format. Solid choice, my guy. Maybe you don't like these particular top rogue decks, but these are still really good. Good enough to steal W's. Sometimes these decks just have the out. It was built to steal W's off of some of the top decks. Takes a really good pilot is exactly what it sounds like. It's gonna require more effort from you than the deck to be able to win. And lastly, my guys, you may know it is, oh no, what are you doing, baby? You may know it is Arby's tier. I like to call it a real challenge nowadays. The reason why I say this is because not only are these decks challenged, it's challenging enough to see how many hoops you guys are going to jump through in the comment section to say that these decks are actually really good. Let's be real, my guy. You are literally playing the game on maximum difficulty if you're playing these decks. It's commendable and it make you dope. That's it. Okay, guys, since we're in the early stages of the format and it's always changing, I think that we should develop our criteria around it. Right now, from which Big Dog has been seeing, some of the best and most common decks that have been played in this format is Kashtira, Labyrinth, Branded, and Mathmech. Oh my God, I'm sleep. It's the same thing. Kind of. What's actually been different is that we've been seeing a ton of rogue strategies that could potentially break into the meta, be really good as long as you follow these rules. My guy, how good is your deck against Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring? It's a Labyrinth killer and it's a Branded killer, and with Gamma at 1, you better be prepared. Is your board gonna consist on a Nibiru the Primal Bing? Just imagine having a full-fledged board in Nibiru. Oh, and of course, can your deck actually play against some of the top decks? Now, I went into detail about this on yesterday's video, so you can go ahead and check that out. But let's go ahead and jump on in so I can give you details on these particular strategies. I even scoured the comment section of my last tier list to find some strategies that you guys wanted me to put. So put more down below in the comment section if you want even more strategy. Let's start off with Code Talkers, my guy. I actually expected Code Talkers to do a lot better before the Forbidden List, but now since Mathmech Circular has opened up, I think that there's a legitimate room for Code Talker to be good enough to steal W's. Here's why. The Code Talker strategy now makes Access Code Talker better than any other strategy. Don't get me wrong, you still got 1-card circulars, but this deck is like, it's Code Talker. Access Code Talker is a Code Talker. Seeing that this deck isn't centered around Mathmech Circular and can still use Mathmech Circular, it's a fairly powerful deck that can play under Nibiru with cards like Nightmare Corrupt or Ibly, and it's not necessarily weak to Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I actually like how this deck can operate under this particular format. Unfortunately, not all decks are created equal, especially if they are a protagonist strategy. With that being said, Jesse Anderson, I'm sorry, my guy, you're a real challenge. Me and Nessie were actually talking about this on my stream. Outside of Crystal Beast, Sapphire, Pegasus, all of the other Crystal Beast monsters are pretty much normal monsters. Hey, I know you gon' fear it, my guy, when I summon that Crystal Beast Topaz Tiger. My guy, it's 2000 attack when it attacks. The good thing about Crystal Beast is that you can play all these crazy cool interruption cards like Necro Valley and not be affected. The bad thing is that your Crystal Beast monsters, they don't do much. Dynamorphia is actually a pretty good Yu-Gi-Oh deck, allowing you to dodge Nibiru because you ain't summoned it 5 times. Also, it does have more interaction against cards like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring because of the new Dynamorphia Intact Trap card, as well as Solemn Strike. I think that this deck is good enough to steal W's now. Unfortunately, the new Dino support doesn't directly help Dynamorphia, though a Dino deck could play Dynamorphia as an engine now, but let's not talk about that. Rexstrom is a sturdy Yu-Gi-Oh card, and fortunately enough, Dynamorphia can summon multiple monsters to the side of the field with ease to be able to help alleviate the Kaiju problem. Evil Eye, my boys, you already know what we own. I would say, because Kaijus are big into the format, takes a really good pilot. But my guys, the Dynamorphia cards, they get their equip cards, and then the equip monster makes them indestructible, and then we can destroy cards. They don't stand a chance. I think you guys are probably getting a hit. If your strategy auto loses to a Kaiju, it's gonna be rough sledding. Speaking of such, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Nibiru the Primal Being in the format, holy. I have been in so much copium for this particular deck. I think it's finally time to admit it. Stepsisters, we're no longer in Alabama. I know, it's too hard. It's too hard. Oh, come on, don't call me Step Bro no more. I'm not doing anything anymore. No, it's not working. A decent amount of top decks that I mentioned are starting to move away from needing the graveyard. And unfortunately, me thinking that the Bystials were going to be super impactful, they aren't as impactful. They're really good sideboard cards, but that does make Exosister a little bit weaker. Ironically, I talked about Furhair being the best runic variant going forward. I still think that that holds a lot of weight, and I think that this deck is a very solid choice. Now, don't get me wrong, Nibiru and Ash Blossom are your enemy, but have you seen Donner? Come on, guys, if you're a fan of Zootopia, if you know, you know. I like that even though those cards are in the format, they're gonna need to be able to use them very precisely and normally have a lot of follow-up to be able to stop this deck, as it can always gain more resources back and still continue to keep playing, as well as play under those cards with a lot of the things that they have in their arsenal. Generator is in an interesting predicament. It is one of the very few decks that can get Nibiru'd on your opponent's turn. It's almost equivalent to getting fired on your off day. What is this, the John Wick of Yu-Gi-Oh? Imagine all the Generator monsters posting their blickies on social media. It's a token in my city, boy! I think that Generators have a ton of hurdles that they have to play around. A skilled player is probably going to be required to be able to take Generators to the top level. I'm still liking the new Leviathan. I think that that card is insane, especially since Vela helps you set it up really well, as long as you have the brain enough to play around the Nibiru and can use cards like Generator Boss Room, whichever's the one that lets you play around Ash, as well as maybe incorporate the Generator Trap cards to help you play around Ash Blossom. This deck can still be in a pretty solid spot. Doty really ain't got no business being on here, let's be real. I did it for 3 reasons. A, I love my boy Trey. B, I love Master Duel players. C, not only did y'all heavily request it, something is fishy about this deck. I don't know, maybe it's the enunciation, because Goaty looks like it should be fish. That is how you spell fish, right? Regardless, to satisfy the mob, I am not gonna say that this deck is a real challenge. I am not trying to get murdered by people that love MVT. It is a deck that does take a really good pilot though. The problem with Goaty is getting started. If your opponent sniffs you out and knows exactly how to play against the deck, you're cooked. But once it gets going, you almost win. Gold Pride, whether you're playing Gold Pride or Gold Pride Punk, is one of the best decks available. My guy, this deck was topping the last format and it didn't lose anything. You expect it to get worse? One thing I have noticed is that players are playing a lot less Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, as well as Joel and Lockbird. I think Dark Worlds does move up a hedge to be good enough to steal W. Keep in mind, players are still citing Bystials because of Despia and other things, so hold your horses before you say that this deck is back on the bench. The hamburger is a real challenge. Bro, I think the only benefit of this deck is that if you ever win, you could always say that you cooked your opponent, quite literally. Heroes are another strategy that has been topping throughout last format, and I don't expect that to change. This is one of the better decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ironically, when it comes to rogue status. Plus, if you guys ever see me on Twitch, I be saying some bold takes, like, Batman's a villain. When you really think about it, Merrick is more of a hero than Batman, but that's for Twitch talk. D-Time actually has quite a few videos where he shows you how this deck can play around Nibiru and still make a deadly board. And using Ash Blossom on the deck's ability to search, well, Which search? It has so many. A lot of times you just wasted an Ash Blossom. They gonna do what they do. Earth Machine, unfortunately, should be known as worst super heavy samurai. It's a real challenge. It really does pain me to say this about Earth Machine, but I think you guys understand. The fortunes of Earth Machine can actually be turned around with, I don't know, actual cohesive Earth Machine extra deck monsters that can help the deck, instead of players just playing super heavy samurai with Earth Machine. Like, it doesn't work. I think Draco Slayer is a deck that is really good enough to steal W's. Hey, yo, this deck makes some crazy locks. Summoning a Morphe Sloth, no special summons? Ugh. This deck can combo for quite some time and trades well against Ash Blossom, but I wouldn't say so much against Nibiru. It's no real debate here. Marine Test is one of the better choices in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Bro, if you get Nibiru as a Marine Test player, just Nibiru them back. It's only fair. Unfortunately for right now, I think to be considered a top rogue deck, you need to A, be able to beat Nibiru like heroes do, or B, just not summon 5 times like how Gold Pride can do. Makanko, in contrast to my last list that I've been talking about. So the big difference between this list and last list is that here has been a change in hand traps, and I can't wait to get you guys a hand trap tier list to be able to give you an updated guide. But the biggest thing is that there has been a decrease in cards like Droll and Lockbird, which means that decks like Makanko are a little bit stronger. Overall, though, I think there's going to be a point in time where we just start saying ritual decks, kind of like how we say with pendulum decks, because there's so many variations of Makanko. Regardless, all of the topping lists that I've been seeing have been saying, yo, Droll me. Regardless, every single one of those topping lists have been disrespecting Droll, but they've been getting humbled by Nibiru. I think this is a solid choice. And the weird thing about this is that I'm pretty sure this deck can play under Nibiru, which makes things even more complicated. My guys, Ninjas 100% are a deck that's going to take a really good pilot right now. The biggest thing about this deck is that it can play under Nibiru by flipping your own monsters face down. Nibiru only tributes face up. The problem with this deck is that you just need the big brain through every single Yu-Gi-Oh board going second, and a lot of the board breakers in the game don't help you. Plunder Patrol 100% is a solid Yu-Gi-Oh choice. There have been Plunder Patrol Runic, Plunder Patrol Kaiju. All of them are fairly decent decks in the game. Hey, Kashtira, you still need a token, by the way, because Jor can do that for you. To be honest, I don't even know why Pearly is even here. This is still a top rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck in my eyes. We already know cards like Nibiru and Ash do not affect it, but I think that the biggest thing is that players were so hungover on losing your ex-Pearly Noor that they forgot the other Pearly cards are pretty good. E-Pearly Beauty is a quick effect negation that can also change the battle positions of your opponent's monsters to set up for an E-Pearly Happiness OTK. This deck is extremely solid, and the field spell can equip from the deck to your monsters, as well as the trap cards still allowing you to level up. Don't forget about those. Rescue Ace, my guys. I'm in danger. Yep, I'm just gonna set it in a real challenge. I've been hearing good things about the new cards from Duelist Nexus for Rescue Ace, but the problem is we're not in Duelist Nexus. Salamangreat also fits the real challenge bill right here. I love that Salamangreats can recycle Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. That's really good. I also love the inboard of Salamangreats that ends on an Nibiru token and the Salamangreat drop cards. That's also really, yeah, that's not good. I actually really do like Scareclaw as a strategy, but I have a huge beef with it. Why play Scareclaw Kashtira when you can play Kashtira? In terms of power, Kashtira is the stronger deck. In terms of actually taking full advantage of Scareclaw's most powerful cards in Scareclaw Rykart and Scareclaw Arrival, Scareclaw Manadium does an even better job than that. Scareclaw Twin Saw and the Link 3 are fairly powerful cards, but I don't think that they're powerful enough. I would say that this deck, just because of that, it's a real challenge genuinely. I don't want you guys to think that Scareclaw has the same power as the other decks in a real challenge. It's way better than that. It's actually probably in the takes a good pilot to good enough to steal W's. But the big problem that I'm having with Scareclaw right now is why play it as a pure deck when it is better as an engine in Vanadium, or you're just better off playing Kashtira. Now that I think about it, if your answer is budget, that's fair, but this isn't a budget tier list. Spyro, my boys, got quick fix to 3, and I've seen some crazy Spiral super heavy combos. Yep, that's exactly where you're going. To be honest, the more that I keep this deck in here, I feel disrespected by Scareclaw players. I'm just gonna put it right here. Spyro still has Master Plan banned in the TCG, also doesn't add anything to Super Heavy Samurai that it can't do. Super Heavy Samurai can still make those oppressive Yu-Gi-Oh boards. This just adds more bricks to the strategy without giving you a bigger upside. Teller Knights. Come on, guys, let's be real. Seriously, be a realist. This deck is still a real challenge. Now, the Teller Knight dude is gonna tell you different, and if you're on that copium, go ahead and check out his channel. I think the biggest problem with Teller Knights is that Konami tried to turn a control deck into a combo deck and failed miserable on both aspects. The best thing that they should do is revert this back to a control deck and allow it to be a control deck. Thunder Dragon Chaos is actually not a bad Yu-Gi-Oh deck by any means. It's pretty good. To be honest, it's more of the Chaos cards carrying the Thunder Dragon cards, but the Thunder Dragon cards do play a huge part. Thunder Dragon Bestial Chaos is actually a really solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The best thing that I like about this particular strategy, while it isn't as strong as Dragon Link Chaos, is that the Thunder Dragon monsters are not being pulled up by the Chaos or the Bestial cards. It actually holds its own weight and provides its own advantages. Trap Tricks players, stand up, my boys. You are a top row deck. Just go first. Plays around Nibiru. Laughs at Ash. Holy, it's your turn, guys. And with the format being hit just enough to be a little bit more manageable going second, Traptrix is a top rogue deck right now. Tri-Brigade as a pure deck. Holy, you don't even try it. Tri-Brigade as a Sprite deck. Yeah. Tri-Brigade Sprite is bananas right now, guys. Solid Interruption and Gigantic Sprite prevents you from being Nibiru. Yeah, this is the life. Dinos, my boy. Oh my God. Super solid choice. I would 100% put it into top rogue if we had Miscad 3, which allows you to dodge Nibiru. And Ash Blossom isn't as powerful as it was before against this deck. This deck makes some really solid inboards, and if you guys want to see a deck profile on it, go ahead and check out this video. I also even have a duel using the Dino deck to show you how powerful it is in action. But you should already know this deck is pretty much a board breaking type deck as well. It can break some of the most powerful boards, and if you do get that Misk into your hand, which could be pretty easy to get through Fossil Dig, Soul Eating, and Small World, yeah, this deck could be a genuine contender. Virtual World was demanded to be put on here, and there's multiple versions of Virtual World. There's the Adventure version, there's the Pure version, and Sword Soul. I think overall, all of them are strategies that take a really good pilot. Let's face it, guys, Shinshin is in a Rise Heart at home, but it is still in a Rise Heart. And plus, I think Virtual World players have been a little bit more clever at managing their bricks. They've been using cards like Small World to help getting them into combo, and that's one of Virtual World's biggest problems. It's just gonna take the correct player to be able to maneuver a Virtual World strategy, where some other strategies are a little bit easier to play. I have seen the light, my friends. This deck is a top rogue deck. This deck probably shouldn't even be here. Vanquish Souls will be one of the better decks in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Watch out, guys, this deck is incredible. Nibiru is a problem? Well, I make my board in for something. Ash Blossom? Foolish mortal, one-to-one interactions don't work. I really like how Wild Survivors has kicked this format off with a bang, giving us a pretty good strategy that players are still learning to adapt to. The Kashtira cards are actually crazy for this deck, and it's just Fenrir and a Rise Heart being Earth and Fire targets while also being Exi material, but also being able to play a ton of hand traps that can help this strategy using its Vanquish Soul effects, and really good floodgate cards like Skill Drain and There Can Be Only One to shut down some of the top decks. And lastly is Yang Zing. Yang Zing has actually become a little bit more potent with the Vanadium cards. I think that it's solid enough to steal Ws, especially with Denglong. My guy, being able to synchro summon into an indestructible herald on your opponent's turn? Holy, tell him to give it up. It's not a Rise Heart at home, it's a Rise Heart at the big corporation. And that's all that I have for the Rogue tier list for the start of this format. Because things have changed, you may have noticed that there's some strategies that are a little bit higher and lower than our last tier list, but that's simply because things have changed. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you think that one of these strategies are too high or too low, if you think that there needs to be another strategy that needs to be talked about, go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section, as well as other tier lists you'd like to see. As always, I hope you are having a phenomenal day, but be sure to check out these other videos as I'll catch you on the next one.